I'm going to share 5 of the rookie influencer mistakes I see time and time again, so that you can share this with your would-be influencers so that they don't make the same mistakes, which means that the content they send you to use is more usable. So rookie mistake number 1 is that your influencer doesn't record and save a clean version of the full video. What they do instead is that they do the editing themselves. They put it on text, they sometimes add music, they may be talking, and then they edit that down and send you their finished version. The problem is, when we come to edit that material, we're really restricted on what we can do with it. Maybe you wanted to hear them talk, but they've added music, so we don't have a clean version of only their voice, so you can use the music you want to use. Or quite often what happens is they will add their own on-screen text, but when they've recorded, they've flipped the screen. So you have your product and their text, but they're each round the wrong way. So the text will read correctly, but the product will be backwards. Rookie influencer mistake number 2 is that you don't keep the product in shot long enough. Now, sometimes this has come about when the influencer's been, for example, going into a shop to show a promotion and filling up their basket and showing items coming off the shelf, going in the basket. But you can do that so fast that we don't actually have a moment to see the product. So if that's your scenario, when you're bringing the product in, you're often filming with your phone, that you hold the product for a moment so we can see it and then put it into the basket. When you're using the product in your home environment, making your video, and you're bringing the product into shot, the same thing applies when you're talking about the product, bringing it into shot. Make sure that you let it pause in the shot for long enough. So when a brand is using that influencer video as an advert, you really have to make sure that the key parts of the video are in the safe zone, which is really small. So when you have your product, don't keep it low. Make sure you bring it actually quite high and close to your face. The next rookie mistake is not leaving enough handles in their filming. So what are these? The handles are what we use in video editing to get to that most beautiful point to make the cuts, either end of the video clip that's been made. And the piece that we want to take out, we need to have some room for breathing, if you like, on each side, so we can pick a frame that makes a nice seamless cut so it doesn't feel awkward or look ugly. So when your influencer is filming, they need to make sure that through every action there's a real beginning and end that has room to breathe, rather than quickly just moving on to the next item or the next action that they want to show you. So what this looks like and why it makes the editor's job harder is if each individual action that the influencer is taking the viewer through with your product, there's not enough breathing space in between each action, so that we have the ability to manipulate how we want that video to be cut together. You might want to have a really fast-paced piece of music behind and have the fast cutting and short clips, or you might want to make it a slower paced where there's more space between each action. But if we don't have the longer version to start with, then we don't have that variety or that ability to adapt to how you want that video to be used to represent your brand. So when your influencer has different stages, they need to slow down and make sure there's a pause between each action. For example, they may first of all introduce the product. Then they might want to open the product up. So they need to make sure that through each different stage of action, there's a little bit of a pause. So filming with enough video handle means that when your influencer is starting and finishing their video, they're leaning forward and pressing stop or start. And you'll be surprised at just how many times a piece of footage becomes unusable, because when the action is started or when the influencer begins talking, the motion of coming back into shot is still happening, which looks really ugly and awful. So at the beginning and end of shot. So what your influencer needs to make sure they're doing is they've really got back into their position before they then begin the film. And likewise at the end, they really pause and wait a beat before they go and press stop. The next rookie influencer mistake that I see is that your influencer is filming too close to the screen, whether they're using a professional camera to film or their own smartphone. And the problem that this brings is that they are often very full-faced on screen. So sometimes I've had videos where the influencer's head's been really touched in the top and it's been very cropped in. And yet what we wanted to do is have the product come up on screen, and it gives us very little space to play with on how we position that product. Whereas if that influencer had more distance from the camera and more space around their head and shoulders, we would be able to move them around or zoom in the edit. It gives us so much more flexibility on how we're going to use that video content. The final rookie influencer mistake that I see is that we're given lower resolution content. Experienced influencers tend to always give us 4K resolution content. Having 4K means that we can actually crop in and still provide an HD level of resolution content for the final video. If you think the content of this video would be helpful to give to your influencers or the influencers you're about to start working with, then please fill in your details in the box below and I will send to you this video and an accompanying worksheet that's going to help guide your influencers through providing better content for you to use to promote your brand.